guys, I'm Leslee Bender and welcome to I Am Ageless Now, the workout and the biomechanics behind it. I'm so honored that you would, decide to go through this session with me today, and you're going to get such great ideas as a personal trainer and or small group specialist. Whatever your training is, you're going to be able to apply all these different programs and exercise techniques into what it is that you do. I've been in this industry a long time. I'm a graduate of the Gray Institute of Applied Functional Science. I've also worked with Thomas Myers, anatomy trains, and done a cadaver lab a couple of years ago. And for me, that was absolutely life-changing, especially when we're talking about the active aging population and the influence on movement or lack thereof in a deceased body, one of which was very healthy and had a brain injury and died earlier, versus another one that lived in a lot of pain and multiple surgeries and injuries. And even though both of these bodies were deceased, it really makes you realize that we have to go through life taking care of ourselves. And being part of the movement industry, I can't stress it enough that education is key, and understanding the purpose of every movement gives you the ability to be a better trainer. So Gary Gray said something that's always stuck with me very strongly, is to create a conscious movement for a subconscious result. Your bones move, your joints feel, and your tissue reacts. And when we adapt that philosophy into everything that we do, then we start to create exercises that translate into our clients' lifestyle and what they love to do. Biomechanically, we have to move. If we don't, we get stuck. Chronologically, what age is us? I mean, what age are we? We could be a 60-year-old in a 35-year-old's body, or we can be a 35-year-old in a 65-year-old's body. And it really gets down to how we move, our nutrition, our hydration, how much sleep we're getting, and our mental focus and our mental state of mind. And they've proven over and over and over again in so many different research studies, from the Functional Aging Institute to so many other different resources, that specificity and motion, and how not only does it help the cognitive process of aging, but it also helps with the biological and the physical aspects of aging as well. So I came up with this program called I Am Ageless Now. And this program is really designed, once again, to give you tools and techniques to add into, whatever your client's ability is, so that you have more in your toolbox when you leave. I mean, a quick story is I had an 82-year-old client, and she came into me and she just had all this, this gusto. And she's like, come on, let's go. What are we going to do today? I work at a Pilates studio. And I thought, wow, you've really got it going on, my friend. And so she worked out, and just amazing body awareness, fantastic, state of mind. And I said, well, now you go to the Y. Now, do you like taking classes there? And she said, oh yeah, they have those senior classes, but old people are in there. And I said to her, how old are you? And she said, well, I'm 82. And I was like, okay, you're my hero. So Tina is like an absolutely walking, talking, vision of how we should all be, as is Jane Fonda for that matter. So with that being said, in order to not, really age quicker, we really have to look at all the components of how we stay ageless and how we stay ageless now. So in this slide, as you can see, our program is based on science. And I bring this into all my presentations because it's really easy to just throw a lot of exercises out, at a conference and say, oh, here's a whole bunch of exercises. I don't know why we're doing them. But for me, going through the Gray Institute was life-changing, and anatomy trains. And I look at, when we look at the physical sciences of gravity and ground reaction always pressing down upon our bodies, that we have to load to explode. And for example, a lot of our inactive aging friends and clients that spend a lot of time sitting, you see them getting out of a chair, and it's a struggle versus being able to sit down and get right back up. And I know I'm a recipient of a total knee replacement. I'm not that far out. I'm only about 5 months out. And they had me up, granted I was on very good drugs, they had me out of that hospital bed, I mean, within an hour after they brought me in, after I'd gone, through recovery, and they had me walk around. And the techniques now, when you think about especially surgeries like joint replacements, hip replacements, knees, shoulders, they get you moving right away. Why? Because the muscles start to atrophy so quickly, and not even so much the size. I obviously lost some size in I lost hypertrophy, but I will say that neurologically, you have to retrain those muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, your fascia. You need to retrain them both mentally and physically, how to move you again. And being a patient and also a trainer, this knee replacement for me was a gift that when I talk now about the biological sciences and the behavioral sciences, that a lot of our active aging clients, like myself, that have been through a total joint replacement, I as a trainer had no idea of depression and pain like I went through when I went through this. And I share this with you because as a trainer, if we don't fully comprehend what someone has gone through, especially in a surgery of this magnitude, it's very hard to train them. And we have to look at how much can they actually move in a pain-free zone? How well can they work against gravity? And biologically, things are still healing, so you can't push it too much, but just enough that you know that you need to create the healing process and create hypertrophy back in the muscles. And last but not least, how do you keep someone mentally engaged and inspired when they are in pain? And especially clients that have chosen to not take the heavy-duty pain meds. I mean, we are in an opioid crisis. We're in a lot of crises in our country right now, but opioids is part of it. And a lot of it is because the doctors, when they're done, when they're looking at you for your initial consultation, they'll say, oh, you'll be fine, you're fit, you're healthy, you'll be fine. And even the most fit, the most healthy individual coming out of anything this big is no easy task. So, for a lot of people, the depression sets in. So we as trainers, by pushing our clients too hard, too soon, too quick, no matter what the case may be, rather than giving them positive mantras and giving them something to like, wow, you got a full revolution on that bike today. That is awesome. You can keep doing this and, keep working at this. And, next time we see you, maybe we'll lower that seat down so we actually get better flexion out of your knee. And I'm very lucky. I had a very, very good PT that knew my threshold and where he could and couldn't push me. But we as trainers are coming from a different world. So with that being said, we have to really educate ourselves into the kinds of injuries and what are active aging clients and what does active aging actually mean. So as you can see in this slide, there's lots of different people doing different activities, from yoga to tennis. I'm in the far corner. Matter of fact, I was actually back water skiing within 4 months. And of course, my doctor found out about it and was kind of like, what do you mean you're back on the water? I'm like, yeah, I'm back on the water. Not quite that good, but I'm back on the water. So as you can see, all these activities require all three planes of motion in our next slide. So when we talk about our planes of motion, as it relates to movement and how it relates to this workout is crucial in understanding our planes. Now, if you think about when we took an exam way back when, we learned our planes of motion for one reason and one reason only, and that was to take a test. There's a problem here. Planes of motion in a manual are only one-dimensional. So I want you to walk away really understanding why we use our planes of motion in this program and why it affects everything that we do. So with that, let's talk about our sagittal plane. And I'm going to use an analogy because anyone who's a baby boomer completely remembers The Wizard of Oz. We've all seen it. And even those of you that are not baby boomers, you know The Wizard of Oz. How many of you were afraid of the monkeys? I was. I was convinced they were going to come into my bedroom at night and take me off to the Wicked Witch of the West. So in our planes of motion, the sagittal plane is anterior and posterior of the body. Now, why does that have anything to do with anything? Well, in this plane of motion, we talk about lengthening. Like when we do a squat, we're doing a squat in the sagittal plane. Now, who moved this way, only this way, in The Wizard of Oz was the Tin Woodsman. So that's why I bring up The Wizard of Oz. The Tin Woodsman moved primarily in the sagittal plane from flexion to extension. Now, the deal is though, he was stuck in this plane of motion. He didn't have movement from side to side. But when we talk about this plane of motion, if you were to reach your arms up over your head and lean back a little bit, you're going to feel the whole front of your body lengthen. You're going to feel a lengthening sensation. What does that have to do with the physical sciences? Gravity. So if you lean back, you're going to feel the front of the body lengthen and stretch against gravity. So the rectus abdominis, all that fascial tissue lengthens so that you don't fall over. Same goes true if you were to bend over and touch your toes, so go ahead and do that for me. You're going to feel your hamstrings, your calves, everything lengthen against gravity. So we know, and we've studied pretty much only in our planes of motion, like, okay, the bicep flexes the elbow and the tricep extends it, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of antiquated thinking because every time our foot hits the ground and we start to propel ourselves forward, our posterior body has to lengthen so we don't go tumbling forward. So when you look at a lot of silly exercise programs that tell you to squeeze your glutes and clench everything down, then we've taken away the ability, the authentic ability of our hips to move. So for example, just go into a posterior pelvic position, cramp your glutes, squeeze your glutes, try to bend over and touch your toes. You can't do it. Try to reach up and touch the sky. You can't do it. Now stay in this tucked position, keep squeezing your glutes and try to rotate. Now I'm taking away the transverse plane. So when we look at a lot of our active aging people, they start to walk sort of in a shuffle in this kyphotic position due to the fact that they've really lost the ability to move their pelvis and their hips authentically. And besides that, when we're in a posterior position, we basically are shoving our internal organs backwards rather than being in a neutral position where we are meant to be. Now, our frontal plane is also affected by gravity, and that's a right and left movement. We know it as abduction and adduction, but let's take it one step further. Let's talk about lateral flexion. So if we were to all lean over to our left side, you're going to feel the right side of the body lengthen. As you reach your right arm up, you're going to feel the body lengthen. As you grab the wrist, you're going to feel even more lengthening because you've just tugged on that fascia. If you take the functional flexibility with me, then you're going to know more about that. Now, same goes true if you're to do the other side and give it a tug. Naturally, your body just lengthened and responded because of the fact that gravity, again, as you can see, the sciences play an influence on human movement. Now, our rotation, if we were to just rotate to the right, you're going to notice that your right arch starts to supinate, but the left one pronates. So as you rotate from the top, oh, by the way, if you remember in the transverse plane, sorry, let me go back to my Wizard of Oz story. If you remember, the Cowardly Lion used to keep hitting himself with a tail, and he'd always turn around and he'd be like, oh, I scared myself. So our transverse plane is the cowardly lion, and who was stuck up on the, up on the fence was our scarecrow, which moved in our frontal plane. So again, you've got Tin Woodsman. You'll always remember it. Your Tin Woodsman is going to be sagittal. Our scarecrow is in our frontal plane, and our cowardly lion is in our transverse plane. So I love to bring that up because so many times we look at our planes of motion, but we don't look at them as how do they function and how do we function in them in life. And if we look at a golfer, when they get into their swing, even though they're starting here, basically, I'm starting right in that transverse plane, but the minute I start to go into my back swing, you're going to notice that the knee adducts in the frontal plane, and then I start to rotate in the transverse plane. And where do most golfers have issues? They have issues in their low backs and their knees because they overtrain in one plane of motion. So that being our sagittal plane. So with that being said, we have to look at, sorry about that, guys, because my phone, oh crap. All right, so with that being said, when we go into that plane of motion of rotation, and golfers and tennis players have those issues, for all intents and purposes, then we have to get them moving in that transverse plane. All right, so next is, as I spoke of, in our planes of motion, here is, people moving in all three planes of motion. If you look at the tennis player, so for example, grab that racket. Imagine you've got a racket and you're gonna go back into a backswing. So if you're here and you're going into that backswing, if you think about it, you are moving in all three planes of motion. So it is so crucial to train in what plane, guys, then? The transverse plane. And somebody doing yoga or, there I am water skiing and, working on balance. So all of this plays a huge role in the I Am Ageless program. Okay, let's talk about our learners. And this is a very important point, especially when we're looking at our different stages of age. Has a lot to do with our stages of learning as well. So when we look at the cognitive individual, now, especially in times like right now, we don't have the ability as trainers, as of yet, but it will change hopefully back soon, is that we can actually adjust our client into the right alignment, right? As to where now, because of COVID, we are really restricted to not being able to touch our clients. So with that being said, when we look at the person, the cognitive individual, they're not in their body and they need that hands-on approach. The associative learner is more in their body. They have that ability that, like, if you were to say, drop your shoulders down, they're gonna get it. The cognitive individual, you can be here and saying, lower your shoulders, relax your shoulders throughout a class. And you have to go over and actually physically touch them and say, get your shoulders down. Now, the associative individual, all we have to do is either say it or demonstrate it, and they know where their alignment should be. Keeping in mind, because of gravity having its influence on us, and as we start to get more flexed as we age, we need to work on those postural muscles. But again, if they're not making that association into their body, it definitely makes for a challenge. Now, last is that autonomous person. That autonomous person is very much in their body. No matter what you do, they really understand what they should be doing. They get the exercises, and they're so easy to train. The autonomous person and the associative person, in these times that we're doing primarily everything virtually, for all intents and purposes, guys, many of our active aging clients are not going to walk back into a gym anytime soon. So it's up to us as trainers that we cue specificity. The purpose of the exercise, the alignment of the exercise, and where they should or should not be feeling it. And you're going to experience that in the class that we do today. So when we look at our 3 cues or our 3 methodologies of getting our messages across, is verbally, as I'm doing with you now, visually, but obviously I don't have my hands on you. So I think now that we are going into this new modality of training our clients, we are going to have to be very cognizant of slowing our pace on how we give directions on how to move into and out of our exercises. And I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, so our next slide shows us our ranges of motion. Now, this is where basically we can move in an exercise pain-free, as totally pain-free as possible. When we look at a squat, which is a functional movement, and we got to do it every day, we got to get up and down out of a chair, we have to sit down on a toilet. This is nothing new for you guys, you know that. But talk to somebody who's had a knee replacement and you're having to use a rhizopody. Let me tell you, it's very humbling because you can't sit down because you don't have that flexion. But I had a rhizopody for a couple of weeks, and then I'm just like, I'm Leslee Bender. I do not need a rhizopody. So with that, I really started to work on my hinge where I stayed out of my knee. And pretty soon I was able to sit down and get back up without having to use my hands to push myself back up. And again, this is humbling. For somebody who hasn't gone through this, we just take it for granted, right? So when we look at the importance of hinging, as you hinge forward, you're lengthening all of this tissue back here. You're lengthening the hamstrings and glutes. You're lengthening the calves, and you're staying out of the knee joint. But the older person, when they go to squat, and I'll just use a bar as an example, they're like this, and their knees are somewhere over their toes, and they can't get the range of motion that they need. So when we work in a functional position like something as simple as a squat, it's crucial that we tell them to find their range of motion. And as you can see, that even this small range of motion here, am I still working my glutes? The answer is yes. I'm hinging in the sagittal plane. I'm moving anterior, so I'm lengthening the posterior, and I'm not compromising my knees. Heck, when I'm teaching my students, I still work in an initial range of motion. Just because we as trainers might be able to do the big end range of motion, and woo, we look good doing it, we might have that 60-year-old client with a hip replacement that can't do it. And keeping in mind our active aging, and including myself, we can't do the things that we used to love to do, like maybe in our 30s, like I can't run anymore. And it's very humbling. And as a trainer, and having that empathy towards what a person can and can't do makes us a better trainer. So this next slide is really about the test is the exercise and the exercise is the test. And why I'm bringing this up is what you can do is you can simply write down on a piece of paper, similar to this, is write down your planes of motion, sagittal, frontal, and transverse plane. In column 1 is going to be our foot and ankle complex. All right, that's in our sagittal plane. And this is all in your notes. And in the second column is going to be basically testing our anterior chain being our hip flexors. Because again, if the calves are tight and the hips are tight, what's right in between, nowhere to go and nowhere to hide? The knee. And then we've got our hip, and then we've got our lateral movement from side to side in our frontal plane to see how well our thoracic spine moves. And then we're also going to test to see how well we have rotation. So in these simple evaluations, in my I Am Ageless workout, I test no matter whether I have a big group or whether I'm doing one-on-one. Because really at the end of the day, our students need to see and feel whether or not they made a change in their body, all right, or how they feel before and after a class. And that's really, really important because it gives them that sense of satisfaction. It's like, oh, I did make a change. I do feel better, right? And that is just so, so important to how our clients feel. So again, this workout is really based on the physical, the biological, and the behavioral sciences. And every exercise has a purpose to it. So what you're going to do is stand up. Now, the equipment that we are going to use for I'm Ageless Now, and it makes for really simple equipment, is we're going to use a gliding disc or a paper plate. For our clients that are home that don't have gliding discs, this works really well. We have a tennis ball, which works really well. A small ball or a pillow. I really do prefer using, a small ball like my bender ball when doing these exercises. And also too, for your clients that like to add in some myofascial work, we add in some rolling, all right? So these are just the simple tools that they can use at home or you can use in small groups that really does make a difference. So where we want to start, guys, is again an evaluation before class. So very, very simply is let's go ahead and we're going to stand with all 10 toes facing forward. Now, I don't want you to, don't judge it, just do it and notice, and make a note if you, because this is a workshop, I do recommend just getting out a piece of paper right now and just documenting what, and you can do this in front of a mirror as well, but it really will help you to document this in yourself. And so I always ask people, do you have knee issues? Do you have back issues? Do you have any discomfort somewhere? And once again, because of COVID, a lot of people are not getting out and moving. They're becoming more sedentary and they're starting to have more aches and pains. I've talked to a lot of doctors. They're having more aches and pains than they've ever had before. So simplistic movements like what I'm going to show you today, if you can get them to do it even 10 minutes a day, it's going to be life-changing for these people, I promise you. So start with all 10 toes facing forward. So our first evaluation is going to be in the sagittal plane. All you're going to do is take a step back with your right foot, okay? Do that. Look back at your right foot and see how much did you actually externally rotate the right foot, and then go ahead and step back in. So do that again, take a step back with your right foot, check it out, document it, whether or not you rotate it out or not. And don't worry, you're just doing a self-evaluation right now. And what I like about doing evaluations like this is it's very personal. This is not based on some numeric, grid somewhere. This is just an observation of, you looking at you. Now do the other side. Take a step back and notice whether you externally rotate out on one side versus the other, and then go ahead and step on in. Okay, now make a note on yourself. And now what I want you to do is go ahead and watch me. I'm your client, okay? So you're gonna ask me to take a step back with the right foot, and I want you to document what I did. Did I rotate out or am I parallel? Now here's my other side. So now I'm gonna step back with my other foot. Am I more parallel on this side or not? Just document that. The more you do these, the more you do evaluations on people, the better you're going to get at understanding the purpose behind these exercises. Now we're going to look at our anterior hip. So what you're going to do is balance on your right foot. Toe tap down with the left. Imagine there's a wall behind you. There might be. All right, you might be in your office. And I want you to imagine touching the wall behind you. So touch the wall, come back, touch the wall, come back again. And you're just toe tapping down with the left foot. And then I want you to do the other side. Tap the wall, come back, tap the wall, and come back. What you're documenting in the sagittal plane is how much hip movement are you getting? I'm going to show you. So here's the right side. I want you to see if my right hip actually moves through any extension, or do I only get there with my low back? You're probably going to see a lot of low back here. You're going to see more lumbar spine. Now, watch the other side. You're going to notice my left hip moves, all right? So in that evaluation, what you're looking for is you're looking to see whether I'm getting through any excursion at all in my hip flexors. This side, not so much. This side, way better. Does that make sense to you guys? It should. All right. Now, our next evaluation is going to be movement from side to side. So if we were to go to our right and go to our left, go side to side, you want to notice how well do I go to my right versus my left. And maybe you turn around right now and look in the mirror and just go side to side and notice whether or not do you go farther to your right or do you go farther to your left. And just kind of notice how you feel in your low back. So once again, watch me and we'll go from my right to my left. Where do I go farther? This side or this side? You're going to notice that I go farther to this side than this side. I can feel it. Now the next evaluation of what we want to look at is rotation. All right, so we're here. So have your students now, or yourself, you would rotate to your right and then rotate to your left. Do you go farther to your right or do you go farther to your left? Again, watch me. Here's my right and here's my left. Actually, this would be my right side. Now, you might notice that I went farther to this side than this side. This is when we start to scratch our head and say why. And here comes the why. So, what side do you carry your bag on? Notice how I'm standing. So if I'm typically standing on one side of my body and the opposite knee is bent, and I just stand like this, and you'll notice teenagers do it, that this side of my body is going to be compact and it's going to be short and tight. And I'm going to have back pain most likely on this side. Now, I have been standing this way for a long period now because of having knee surgery on this side. So I am having a tendency to shift into this side of my body, which is making this side of my body tight. So when we're looking at our clients, watch what side do they carry their bag in, what side do they cross their leg over, and all these things will give you indication of what we need to work on in class. So once you've done that little evaluation, all right, then you go back after the workout we're going to do now and reevaluate and see if you feel any different, all right? So that's that instant magic that we hope that you will feel that gives us an ageless body. So where we're going to begin is with our tennis ball. So we're going to start with the tennis ball and place the tennis ball right in front of us, all right? And from here, what we're going to do is, first things first, that keeps us young is breathing. So let's really fill our lungs up. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Inhale, fill your lungs as full as you can get them, and then sigh it all out. Let out all the negative. So as you're doing a deep breath in and a deep breath out, my goal is I always tell my clients and my students, whatever it is you got to get rid of, let it out. Inhale, exhale out, let out all the negative, inhale all the positive. So even though that sounds cliche, it gives them something to think about. Now, let's go ahead and place the tennis ball underneath the foot of your choice, all right? I'm going to go ahead and start with my left, your right. It's up to you. And what you're going to do is I want you to open those toes up and curl those toes. So open your toes and curl your toes. And as you rock back and forth, just kind of curl your toes, open your toes. And your goal right now is to just start to work into each metatarsal. Now, I get this question all the time. It's like, what if my client has neuropathy or something like that, then for all intents and purposes, I wouldn't go so heavy on it. So open those toes, close those toes, open those toes, close those toes. And from here, what we're gonna do is go ahead and take the ball underneath the arch of the foot and compress and release, compress and release. So as you're compressing and releasing, just feel that right in the arch of the foot. And now start to rub vigorously, rub, 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 rub. So our goal right now is to just give your foot a good rub here. It feels good. And then go ahead and compress down. So I like to do fascia manipulation along with movement, and it keeps us ageless. Now go ahead and rub again. And take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And let's go ahead and step off. All right, here comes magic. We reach up. As long as you don't have any back issues, go into a nice forward fold. And you're gonna notice that that side of your body feels different. Go ahead and roll on up one vertebrae at a time. That side should feel lighter. If you don't believe me, balance on the side you did, balance on the side you didn't do, feel a difference. Here comes a big one. Do a squat and say, wow, that ankle bends easier. Let's do both sides. So again, we're giving these clients really quick, instant gratification. So curl and pull back. So remember that 82-year-old client I told you about? I've got all my students so well trained that they go grab their therapy ball before I even start any class with them because they know the value of it. So open those toes and curl those toes. They always say to me, they're like, God, Leslie, I always feel so much better after I do this. So curl, and open. Work through each metatarsal. Now here's the deal about staying ageless, guys, is giving options to that cognitive, associative, and autonomous person. And now go ahead and rub. So in a multi-dimensional, multi-level, multicultural class, we have to get very creative in what we use as tools. As long as there's a chair they can do something on, or they can place their hands on the wall. All these things are going to help us. Now rub vigorously, and remember, don't forget to breathe. Deep breath in and a deep breath out. Step on off. Here's the magic. Take a full breath in, inhale, exhale, go to that forward fold, and feel a nice big stretch there. And then let's go ahead and roll up one vertebrae at a time. Raise your arms to the ceiling. Okay, so from here, what we're gonna do is raise your arms up, and then we're just gonna start with a knee lift. So just start to work on balance here. Lift and lower those knees. Exhale, lift. As you pull that knee up, you wanna think about pulling the knee up and finding balance. So exhale, lift. Let's do 5 and 4, 3, 2, last one. And I want you to hold up your left knee. Now they can always toe tap down, but balance is part of the anti-aging. Take a step back. Now, this is where I want all 10 toes facing forward. From here, what you want to do is I want you to reach forward in that sagittal plane and stretch and lengthen your posterior calf and come home. Let's do that again. Reach and come back. So as you reach forward and as you come back, really bend that front knee and then come home. Let's do 4 and 3 and 2. Last one, and I need you to just hold that stretch. Lengthen there. Look back. Make sure that you're getting all 10 toes facing forward. Excellent. You are in a hinged position because now you're going to reach below your knee and feel that hamstring and glute lengthen. Now reach up to the sky and lengthen the hip. Lower down, inhale. Exhale, reach up. So cue that breath, reach down and lift. One more time. So imagine you're picking up your grandchild. You're using your legs and not your low back. One more time. Reach down, lift, and now hold it right there. So you lengthen through that whole entire hip flexor. Now lean over to the side in that frontal plane and come back to center. Let's do that again. Lean to the side, come back to center. 2 more times. Lean back to center, flex in that frontal plane. Now hold, now grab your wrist to extend and lengthen that fascia for 4, 3, 2, 1. Come all the way back to center and in. Now go ahead and do a squat. Which ankle bends easier? It should be this one. Reach those arms up, find balance again, and just lift those knees up. So lift, march those knees up, lift, lift. Exhale as you do it. for 3, 2, one more for good luck. Last one, we hold. Now from here, take a step back. That's your transition. All 10 toes facing forward. As you bend into that knee, feel that calf lengthen. Come on back. Let's do that again. Reach and lengthen and come back. 2 more times. Reach and lengthen, come back. Now I want you to hold it right there. Get that big stretch in. Now reach below that knee. Pick up a box, lift it and put it in a shelf. Pick up your suitcase, overhead bin. Think of all the things that we do that we're reaching down and picking stuff up and we're never doing it correctly. This is all about glute and hamstring. One more time, and then I'm going to invite you to just hold it here. And now lean over to the side and grab your wrist and say hello to your fascia today. Take a deep breath in, exhale, give it a pull and hold right there for 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring it back to center so you get this big lengthening and release. How do we do? Take your arms out to the side. Now from here, toe tap out with the right foot. Your arms are out to the side. Now you notice I'm not making this frilly because you're going to have guys in class. Toe tap out to the side and you're going to reach cross behind. So you lengthen this hip. And so our initial range of motion here, mid is here, end range is going to reach down to touch the toe. Now you can also do this in shoes, but then you got to put them back on after massaging your feet. So reach down, come back up. You can always go to the thigh. So what we're doing is what part of that hip complex are we working on? That's side, right? Who do you think this might be good for? Golfers, tennis players. So if you want, reach down, add rotation. Lengthen, open, rotate the thoracic spine. So you reach down, lengthen, rotate. One more, reach down, lengthen. Now press away and come center. Let's do the other side. Toe tap out, reach down, open, and rotate, right? So you reach down and stretch and open that thoracic spine. So you lengthen, open, rotate. One more. Reach, my knee loves this one, and rotate. Last one. So we're here and we open up that thoracic spine and release. By the way, that's a great one that you can do with TheraBands. Do it as a partner exercise. It's really cool. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and grab a gliding disc or a paper plate. And this is where having something that you can put your hands on or they can put their hands on is really beneficial. So what we want to do is this is all about working the glutes and hamstrings as we age. It's important. So we've got a bar here that we can use. But again, you could place your hands on a chair or a countertop if you're doing a virtual training with your students. Otherwise, I'm going to demonstrate here. We're going to ask you to place your gliding disc underneath your right foot. From here, as you lunge back, I want you upright in that sagittal plane and then go ahead and come home. Now go into that lunge. As you do, feel that hip lengthen and then come back. So lunge down and come back up. So stay straight up and down as you do this lunge. The goal right now, guys, is to lengthen this hip. Remember, we sit all day. So as you go down, get a big feeling in that glute and hamstring. Lower down, lift back up. Let's do 4 more here, and 3, and 2, 1 more, and I want you to just stay down there in that lunge. Now ask yourself, where am I feeling this? As you go into a hinge forward, now you're going to feel the glute and hamstring. So go into that range of motion as you lift and lower. So come down, come back up. And I want you to notice that you feel a difference. When you hinge forward, cue that student to take a pause. So from an upright position to a hinge position is night and day. Let's do 5 more in that hinge. 4, and come up. 3, and 2. Now our very last one, let's go ahead and hold it down there and feel the work there in that hamstring and glute for 4, 3, 2, slowly bring it all the way up. You should have felt that hamstring and glute a lot from that hinge forward. So even my clients that are older, again, we give them that option, we'll do the other side, of as we go into this movement, like again, I've got a brand new knee. So if my range of motion is here, I'm going to cue that student with a joint replacement. Go to the point that you feel your hip lengthen when you're upright. So go up and down. Here we go, guys. So lower down, and you want to cue them to look straight up. Go slow, pause, feel that stretch. Lower down, lift, lower down and lift for 3 and 2. Now we hold it there and we go into that hinge, and then we come back up. Lower down, come back up. And those arms are extended out in front of us. So that hinge forward, pause for a moment, feel it. We're always in such a rush to get to the end that we don't enjoy the journey. So just pause and hold it and feel that glute and hamstring really engage, and then bring yourself back home, and then feel that in those legs. That should have been somewhat, that should have been somewhat intense. Now, from here, what we're going to do is work on all 3 planes of motion. So we're going to take our gliding disc or a paper plate. This is one of my favorite ones to do. We abduct out to the side. Again, we're working this big hip complex. And if somebody is balance challenged, their hands can go on a chair or whatever the case may be. So, but we want to work on balance. So as we send the disc out to the side, or our paper plate out to the side, we abduct in the frontal plane. Hinge forward in our sagittal plane, okay? Your knee is in a happy place. You're going to reach out with the right hand. Left hand is out to the side and come back up. Now, initial range of motion might be here. Mid range of motion might be here. End range of motion might be here. So as you press the gliding disc out and as you pull back in, cue them to feel and pull everything in so they're activating their inner thighs as well. So as we go down and in, you're balancing and you're working everything on this left side. Now let's change it and add in our transverse plane by adding that reach across the knee or to the thigh, and then come back in. Reach and come back. So our goal now is to feel the outer part of that glute. So lower down and lift. It's pretty awesome. For 4 and lift, 3, 2. Now hold it. Now this is where it gets more challenging, is to look up at your left hand. Reach, lengthen. Look at the waterfall behind us. It's so freaking awesome. Lower down and lift. I wish I were there. For 3, lift 2, lift 1, hold, bring it all the way back in, and release. All right, how are those legs doing? We haven't done one high impact movement, but how could you, like if you wanted to make this like more cardio based, you'd speed it up. You'd go into a deeper range of motion. If you've got you've got Mrs. Jones over here, knee replacement. This is it, as far as she can go, but you've got somebody over here that is really good. They're gonna be able to do a harder movement. So here we go, lower down and left. But interestingly enough, this is one that my knee loves. Inhale, lower, exhale, lift. It was part of my rehab that I gave myself. I think that's why I was back on my water ski so soon. Reach out, pull back in. So how do we change it? We reach across and we come up. We rotate, and having them look like maybe at their left hand, looking across at the room, looking up at the right hand. Try it. Change where you're looking is going to dramatically change the chain reaction in the body based on science. And then go ahead and bring it all the way back in. So once again, where we look, where we move is going to have a huge influence, right, on all these different things. All right, how'd we do, guys? Did we all feel that? Now, let's talk about helping postural issues. So, we'll put our gliding disc to the side. Don't worry, I'm not done with it yet. So, because this is a workshop, when we're dealing with a lot of postural issues of that flexed forward position, a lot of times in our classes, we'll tell people to get their shoulders back, but I'm creating more impingement here, as you can see. So what we want to add in is now from where you are, is take that step back with that left foot. And I would partner people up with a TheraBand. So if somebody was directly across from me, we'd each have a band and we'd rotate away from each other. So by having my feet pre-positioned in the sagittal plane allows my thoracic spine to move more efficiently than if I were here, and if I'm kyphotic, it's going to look like this. So a step back is going to give me a big range of motion, and then you would do the other side. So I'm just showing you that by adding in a band and doing partner work is really awesome. Now, let's talk about one of people's least favorite things to do, and we will use our gliding disc, is planking. Okay, now, I got Mrs. Jones that has bad wrists, but yet she still wants to strengthen her upper body. So in which case, we can have her do push-ups on the wall. If I have a ballet bar, I can work here. And how do I make it a greater challenge? I take a foot away. So I could literally, I could work my client here, all right? And I do have those clients that literally cannot get up and down off the floor. And with that being said, they are still moving, but that they're not feeling left out. To me, there's nothing worse than like if you have a student that is, that is struggling and they have issues, for example, and they aren't able to do some of the exercises, and you go, oh, don't worry, we'll get back to you later. And then all of a sudden they have a label on them and now they do feel old. So it's really important keeping in mind that the active aging is all about community and being able to do things together. So our next exercise series is really strengthening the core. All right, core is not doing crunches. So from here, what we're gonna do is stay out of our wrists, all right? So as we come down to our hands and knees, for a lot of people that have carpal tunnel and issues, being in a full plank position is really uncomfortable. So we come down to our forearms. What we want to cue them is pulling their abdominals away from the earth. So really engaging that core a lot. So again, your breath is important. Inhale, and as you exhale, we float the knees and we hold it here. Now, scapula stabilization is everything. They will collapse here. You want to cue them to lift up. Remember, you can't touch them if you're doing this virtually. So maybe they have to drop one knee down for a moment and just work on that alignment. Otherwise, you're going to press yourself back. Pull yourself back in. As you press back, inhale, exhale, pull in and use the core. So again, we're working in through the scapular mobility and stability by pulling in. So once again, you can have that person up against the wall doing some arm work up against the wall vertically rather than being in a horizontal position. All right, so let's do a couple more here. And now from here, we're gonna just go ahead and drop our knees. Now, let's do a harder variation of that. We're gonna go out into a good strong plank, inhale. We hold it right here, and as we exhale, we lift. We lower down. What's good about this is there's a little blood rushing to the head. Really good in helping our circulation in our head, by the way. A little inversion. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower down using your core. 2 more, lift. 1 more, last one, and in and recover. How do we do? Okay, so from here now, we're gonna go ahead and have a seat. Really easy transition here, by the way. And from here, what we're gonna do is grab our small ball or a pillow and place it behind us so that we have support here. And I'm just gonna move the mic out of the way. So we've got our ball here. Now, let's go into a little detail about why using the ball behind the low back for our active aging is so important. Think about how many have spondylolisthesis, they have scoliosis, they have degenerative problems in their back. Crunches are the worst thing you can do. So I haven't done a crunch in I don't know how many years, and I don't have any plans on doing it anytime soon. We wedge the ball behind the low back. So the aging spine is going to happen, I mean, with gravity. So the more we flex, the more we compress down on our discs, the more we're going to age our bodies. So what we want to think about doing is this: placing our hands to the sides, taking a breath in, using our breath, exhale. We make a small C curve with our lumbar spine, but our thoracic spine is extended, okay? From here, what we want to do is now let go. We want to lean back just enough that they feel it and come back in. Trust me, I had my 80-year-old doing this, and she hated it. So we go back and we hold, and she goes, "This is too easy." And I say, "All right, Tina. Now, from here, what you're going to do is take one arm up, hold. Now the other arm up, hold. I want you to sit back an inch, lift an inch, lower an inch, lift an inch for 4, and for 3, and 2. Now keep looking up at the ceiling with your eyeballs only. Relax your cervical spine, and then slowly come back up. I call that one earthquake. It's my signature move. We're the only small ball company that actually did research at Loma Linda University where we had 50 subjects where their core became stronger and their back pain went away. So from here, again, you lean back. These are our cues. One arm at a time or both arms. Look up at the ceiling, relax your shoulders, sit back into the ball until you feel the front of the body engage. Remember, we are moving posterior, so we're lengthening the anterior. We hold it right here. And now from here, we bring it back up. Now, let's change it. Lean back again. Arms are going to come up. Let's take our left elbow and slowly lower it, looking over our left shoulder. Wrap back in, and now the other side. Lower and bring it back up. So as you rotate, as you lean back into that ball, you hold it for a moment, bring everything back in. So everything is slow and controlled. Let's do one more here. Last one for good luck, and come home. So everyone feels that one. Everyone, is like, wow, that is just like crazy intense. Now, if you wanted to add some stability, I've got the Rolga here, but what you could use is you can either use like a roller if you have one, or you could put another ball or pillow. So it just gets them to activate their adductors. And then when they lean back and they just give it a little squeeze right here, they're really going to feel their inner thighs. Then lean back and just give the ball, whatever you've got, a little squeeze. Hold right here and lift an inch, lower an inch, lift an inch, lower an inch, and then slowly come back up. And they're going to feel a lot of work right there as well. All right. Now, from here, what we want to do is we want to work on our obliques. So think of a typical oblique movement that we do. We do rotation, we do cross crunches. Let's just move on and away from doing those. So from here, what we can do is we use our ball functionally, and we place the ball underneath our right hip. Now, when I'm working with the active aging client and they have maybe they have, cervical issues, then I offer, go ahead and just hold your head. Place the opposite hand down so that you have stability. You want to make sure all the way down through the entire line of the body is going to be in that frontal plane. Not here, not back here, not jamming up into the SI joint, but here. And then by simply taking the elbow away and lowering down an inch and lifting an inch, and even if they have to assist by using, or you have to use your arm, do it. Now again, autonomous person, let go. Bump it up a notch. And they're gonna love you for this because it's so challenging. The person that's struggling, they might only even be able to do 2 of those without going, oh my gosh, I'm so fatigued. So you've got to pick your battle here. Which one works for you? All right? Which one gets your attention? And then go ahead and come on up. This is why I like this exercise. For me, I find with this exercise in particular, all right, so we're here, is that this side of my body is definitely stronger than the other side. You're going to notice the same. So as you lift and lower, you're going to be going, oh my gosh, this side of my body is so much, stronger than the other. Let's do a couple more here and hold and come up. Great job. So I bet you even noticed in your body. Now, let's go ahead and grab our roller. And this is where I like to incorporate movement as well. So what we want to cue them to do is right after any of my I'm Ageless workouts, we always roll. So we come down to our forearms, we place our thighs on top of our roller, whether it's a flat one or contoured, and you can also, they can do this sitting in a chair, but I prefer having your body weight on it. So what we want to do is just roll forward an inch and back an inch, just a little bit. So when we incorporate rolling, it keeps us ageless, keeps our connective tissue more pliable. And you can also, you can always add this in even before a class and get them to do it before a class. So toe in and toe out, toe in and toe out. Now bend your knees and extend your knees. All right, so we want to bend those knees and extend those knees. Let's do a couple more here. So bend and extend. One more for good luck. And bend and extend. This time we're going to extend both legs and we're just going to hold it. Now, if you took my functional flexibility and fascia fitness, we did a lot more on our rolling. This is just adding and rolling to the end of I Am Ageless Now workout to work onto those overused quads. From here, let's go ahead and come on back up into our tabletop, setting our roller to the side. I'll revisit that again. And let's go ahead and take our legs out and go for our calves. Place the tennis ball underneath your right calf, cross the left one over, and then I'm going to invite you to just lean forward. So what we want to do is flex the feet, point the feet, flex the feet, point. So as we flex and point and we start to work into that calf muscle, it really, it feels good and it helps for mobility and stability. So flex and point and flex and point. Excellent. Let's go ahead and do the other side. So we place the tennis ball underneath the other calf, and this is where my clients are usually screaming right about now. So flex and point and flex and point. Two more times. Flex and point one more time and flex and point. Okay, go ahead and bring it all the way in. Okay, set your tennis ball to the side. If you have a Rolga, it makes a big difference placing our Rolga underneath our hamstrings. And I want you to toe in and toe out. So in other words, wax on, wax off. So you're working into those hamstrings. And if you think about it, with our gliding, we did a lot. So externally rotate, internally rotate, externally rotate, and internally rotate. Let's do a couple more here. One more for good luck. Internally rotate and externally rotate, and come on down. How'd that feel, guys? Now take that tennis ball, all right? Place the tennis ball right underneath your glute, all right? And this is where it's like, oh, ow. And we're just gonna let our knees fall to the side and come back to center. Let your knees fall to the side, hold it for a moment, pause, come back to center. And let's do that again. Pause, hold, and now let's draw some small circles on our glute. So, this is such a good one. And then you just pause and hold, and then lower down. When they start biting their lips, you know they're feeling it. Let's do the other side. And when we add in myofascial work, guys, keeping in mind that, especially during COVID, people were not able to get out and go ahead and circle the other way. They weren't able to get out and maybe go to their massage therapist because all these places are closed or still closed. So giving them myofascial work in with their workout is really, really important. Okay, let's go ahead and set our tennis ball down. Now, From here, what we're gonna do is my favorite hip flexor opener, because this is where we get really tight. Now, if somebody can't do a hip flexor lunge, then this way you're out of your knee joint and it feels amazing. So you're gonna take the ball, place it underneath your right hip and elevate the right hip and let the left one come down to the mat. Extend your right knee all the way out. Okay, so the right knee is straight, the left hip is on the ground, and the right hip is up on the ball. So you're actually on an angle. Take the right arm over your head and feel a big stretch in that right hip complex, okay? And then what I want you to do is now extend the left. And this is where I always ask my clients to take some deep breathing, because the more we work deep breathing techniques, inhale and exhale, the more we start to release this hip flexor, because everything is attached through fascia. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Sigh it out like you're sighing out, all the bad. Flex your feet and point your feet. And this is where I throw in mantras when they're doing these stretches, is to tell yourself, I am ageless now. I am strong, I am flexible now. And then go ahead and alternate right to left and keep stretching through that body for 3, 2, 1, and release. Now, take the ball away and you're gonna feel the right hip melt into the mat. Let's do the other side. So again, as you can see, it's just part of the ball is elevating that left hip. We extend the left leg out. You stretch the left arm over the head. So all the way from your wrist to the top of your foot, you're stretching this whole myofascial line. So taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out, flex those feet, point your feet, take deep breaths in. So inhale, exhale. So we're working through our diaphragm, our pelvic floor. Breathe in and breathe out. Last one, and then bend that knee and go ahead and come on in. And they're gonna go, oh my gosh, I feel so loose in my hips, right? So go ahead and roll over to your side and let's slowly come on back up. Now from here, come back here, ball. So as you come up, let's go ahead and set our ball down for a moment. Now, before we retest you again, think about placing the ball in between the thighs. And after doing, especially that hip opening movement, as you go into a squat and as you come back up, so go ahead and go for, let's do a few squats here. So sit down into it and come back. And this should actually fit your range of motion, everything should actually feel a little bit different to you right now than when we started, all right? This is a really good one for pelvic floor. So this is what I'd like you guys to do. Now, from here, let's go ahead and stand with all 10 toes facing forward and go ahead and take a step back with your right foot and look back at your right foot. And then step together. Do the other side. Step back with your left foot, look back at your left foot and step together. Remember, you're my trainer. I'm not faking this. I'm more parallel than when we started. Now look at the other side. I'm more parallel than when we started. Now let's go ahead and test our hip extension. So see if you have better mobility. Mine's completely different. And then go ahead and do the other side. And it feels completely different. Let's try our lateral flexion from right to left. That feels easier. And then our right to left rotation, that feels easier. So guys, at the end of the day, at the end of our presentation, www.IamAgelessNow.com, you will find on the IDEA website, again, it's in your handout, that we now offer this as a certification program. Finally, it took forever to do. And you will learn the whys behind all of this. You'll understand the importance of fascia as it relates to this particular workout and why the movements are based on the sciences and the planes of motion. So I hope I gave you some ideas today, especially the Wizard of Oz, on how to move and how to stay ageless. And if you're a client, like me, that can get back on a water ski within 4 months after a total knee replacement, I know this stuff works. So all I can say is motion is lotion, stay hydrated, keep a good, strong nutritional program, and let's defy the aging process and stay young forever. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm Leslee Bender, and I'm Ageless Now.